What's happening, people? It is Brian Alsruhe with NeverSate.com, and for this video I want to talk to you guys about the importance of mock meets and how to fit them into your training. Now, for this video, I'm mainly going to be talking about powerlifting and strongman, primarily strongman, because I should probably stick to what I know. And maybe a little bit of powerlifting, but strongman is unique in that your events change just about every single show that you do. So mock meets are going to be even more important there, but you can apply this to your powerlifting career, to virtually anything. You need to look at a mock meet the same way that you would look at like a scrimmage when you were back in high school playing football. So whenever you come up to a culminating event like a powerlifting meet or a strongman show, I want you to think of it as a test, like you're in school and you're taking a test. This test is going to show you exactly where you stand amongst everyone else in your class. So doing general things like, did you do your homework? Did you pay attention in class? Did you do the extra work? Because it's all going to come full circle and you're not going to be able to hide when you get to that contest. That test is going to show you whether you're going to get an A or you're going to get an F, and most of the time whether you get an A or an F has nothing to do with your actual aptitude. It has to do with how you prepared. So if we stick with this analogy, let's say you have a huge math test next Monday. There is absolutely no point in studying your foreign language class and your home economics class stuff if you have this big math test looming. Your training should be the same way when you have that test coming up, that competition coming up. There is a huge place in your training for those general studies like basic strength training, basic mobility, basic recovery, basic conditioning. Those types of things are all very important, but they are much less important when you have a test coming up. For the test, you want to take your training and try to funnel it down to be as specific as possible for the competition that you're going to do. If you're powerlifting, that's obviously going to be the squat, the bench, and the deadlift. And if you're involved in strongman, that is a veritable cornucopia of horribleness that really changes every single show. You love it and hate it at the same time. But as with most tests, you're probably not going to do as well if you cram a bunch of information in your head the night before and hope that you do well the next day. You do much better if you start further out and slowly, progressively build up that knowledge so that by the time you get to the test, you do a little bit of cleanup, you make it perfect, and then you go in and you actually see where you stand amongst everybody else. You're gonna do the same thing with your training. For this reason, when I sign up for a competition, I like to be about 12 weeks out or 3 months. Way to go, math. But if we're counting backwards, week 12 is when you signed up. Week 0 is the actual competition. Usually that first month, so about week 8, weeks 12 through 8 is a very general type of thing for me. I'm trying to get my speed, my technique, my strength up. I'm trying to raise my deadlift numbers, my pressing numbers. I'm trying to build basic strength. That's month 1. Then at about 2 months out or 8 weeks, my training starts to switch more specifically for the contest that I'm getting ready to do. So if I have a log clean and press for max weight, I'm not spending a lot of time on circus dumbbell. I don't like spending a lot of time on circus dumbbell anyway because that thing is the devil, but it doesn't make sense to be working something that is not going to be tested in the competition when you're only 2 months out. So the bulk of my program switches from basic strength, like trying to drive up my overhead press numbers and my deadlift, to more specific, like I switch to the log exclusively. Or if I have a car deadlift, I'm trying to do the car deadlift as much as possible. So I will do all of the events first, and then all of the other lifts become secondary. They're more like assistance lifts because all my energy and all my time and all my recovery needs to be spent on the actual competition that I am preparing for. Which brings us to week 4, which is where I like to do a mock meet. Now, if you're getting ready for a powerlifting competition, this is where you're gonna wanna find out your openers, maybe even your second attempt, just to get an idea of where you're going in at so you know how to warm up, you know what to do. Now in strongman, a lot of our weights are already set for us. We do have max weight events. So I used log clean and press earlier, I'll use it again. We have 3 attempts to get as heavy as possible. The only difference between strongman and powerlifting is if you miss an attempt, you do not get to go again. So you need to be very, very smart about where you start out, which I definitely mess up from time to time. But for the majority of our events, the weights are already set and you already know what they are. So let's say the farmer's handle, you need to do 335 pounds each hand for 60 feet. You know that that's the weight that you need to get to. For the mock meet, I try to mimic that as closely as possible. I use the exact competition weights 4 weeks out. Once it gets past that, it all changes. But 4 weeks out for the mock meet, I use the competition weights. Now here at my gym, we have about 20 people getting ready for the East Coast Most Powerful Show myself included. So last Saturday we held a mock meet because we're about 4 weeks out. So if you do choose to run a mock meet prior to your competition, I would encourage you to mimic the contest as closely as possible. If there's weigh-ins, weigh in. I know you're not going to be on weight. You're 4 weeks out. You're not supposed to be on weight, but that will switch your mind over into getting you prepared because now it seems real. You only have 4 weeks to drop that extra 5-10 pounds. Grab some friends. If you don't have any friends, work on your social skills, but those friends are going to be the judges. They need to be brutally honest with you. Do not pick friends who are going to be nice and tell you that your squat was good depth when your squat really wasn't good depth. You need to figure these things out now because 4 weeks from now, that judge is not going to be nice to you. They do not care whether you succeed or you fail. It is about how you perform. So if you're running a mock strongman competition and there's circus dumbbell, make sure that you're locked out. Have your friend give you a down command. Have them say competitor ready, go. Have them treat the event exactly like they were going to judge it. But you need to figure out other ways to warm up. For me personally, I like to grab some bands and do some banded good mornings and then some overhead press, some rowing, some pull-ups, some jumping rope. Doing things like that will get you prepared for the competition, and you can count on having those because you can throw them in your bag, as opposed to maybe at a smaller show where there is not enough competition or enough equipment for people to warm up on. Then you need to mimic those things. You need to prepare for the worst case scenario because trust me, competition day, there are going to be things that do not go as well as you'd hoped. Also mimic your downtime or your rest time. So if you're doing a powerlifting competition, think about how big your flight is. Think about how long you'd have between your attempts. Imagine if someone bombed out. Imagine somebody gets injured. You have less time between the flights or attempts. Whatever you're going to do, you need to mimic that as closely as possible. In a strongman competition, you very well may not have much time at all between events. All these things are gonna matter on game day, so you might as well not be surprised by them. So 4 weeks out, now is the time to figure things out. Also mimic the type of gear you're gonna use. If you're going to use wrist wraps, make sure that you use them during the mock meet. The exact same wrist wraps that you are going to be using. Do not borrow someone's wrist wraps, because trust me, day of event, you are not gonna be able to borrow them. Whatever event, whatever shoes you're gonna wear, whatever, if you're doing a powerlifting competition and you need to be in a singlet, wear your singlet for your mock meet. Closely mimic that thing as best as you possibly can. In strongman, it's like a red carpet for strong people. There might be 20 wardrobe changes in a day for each athlete. They're gonna be changing their shoes depending on the event. They're gonna be changing wrist wraps. They use different belts. They're changing their shirts. Figure out how long it takes you to put knee wraps on or wrist wraps on or a deadlift suit or whatever gear you're going to be using. Figure out how much time that is because that is taken out of your warm-up time. You need to figure all of these things out. Have backups, have spares. Know exactly what you're gonna do. Prepare for the worst case scenario. 2 is 1, 1 is none. Always have backups. Your preparation here is gonna make all the difference between coming in first place or last place. Time is one that people do not expect at a strongman show or a powerlifting meet. If you're going to have a 12-hour day, you better have the food packed. You better prepare for that downtime. You better be ready mentally 12 hours away from now. If you're gonna take pre-workout or supplementation, whatever you're going to do at the contest is what you're gonna do at the mock meet, so you know exactly how you're going to feel with peanut butter and honey sandwiches versus gummy bears versus Swedish fish or whatever it is that you're gonna be doing. Figure it out during the mock meet. Now is the time to make your mistakes, figure out what goes well, what doesn't go well, and adjust because you still have a month to get ready. If you do not prepare a month out, you are going to be caught red-handed during contest day and is not gonna go well for you. You need to look at this mock meet like riding a bike. The first time that you ever tried to ride a bike, it went horrendously. No one's good at riding a bike their very first time. You fall down, you hurt yourself, you scrape up your knees, but your second time goes better than your first, and your third time goes better than your second time. You're preparing your mind and you're preparing your body to be in a situation. You're already gonna have all kinds of nerves and all kinds of external things going on that are gonna be taking up a lot of your mind. Do not add things to that by not showing up prepared. If you have done this contest 2 or 3 times prior to the actual real contest, then your body's gonna be like, okay, we've been here before. We know on the circus dumbbell, we get about somewhere between 8 and 10 reps within that 60 seconds. You have a frame of reference and your body doesn't freak out because it says, We've been here before. We can do this. This is not a big deal. This is just like practice. But if you didn't do the practice, then it's kind of like cramming for the exam, and it's probably not going to go well for you. So after that mock meet, that leaves me 3 more weeks of training and 1 week deload before it is game time. So during that 3 weeks, I will just be practicing the events at different intensities and doing assistant stuff and trying not to hurt myself. That is primarily my goal in those last 3 weeks. Just honing my technique, trying to get better. You need to trust that the hay is in the barn. You did the competition weights, they are there. If you did your homework and 12 weeks out, you did all that general physical stuff like driving up your overhead press numbers or driving up your deadlift, the hay is in the barn. You need to trust that. And now it's just about honing your technique, sharpening it, and trying to get better and better at doing the events or performing the squat or performing the deadlift. Whatever competition that you're getting ready for, it's just about trying to sharpen that edge as closely as possible. Again, you are just funneling everything down to be as specific as possible for this one event. And then that last week is nothing but deload. Now I'm gonna do an entire video about how I personally deload, so I'm not gonna get into it here. But once I deload, I heal as much as possible. I focus on getting my weight down. I focus on just not being hurt. That's all that really matters. And then it's game time. So there you guys go. I think mock meets are an invaluable tool to use in preparation for your actual competition. This is just personally I do it. If you know somebody who does it differently and it works great for them, maybe give that a try. But I did want to share with you guys what we're getting ready to do as all of us get ready for our competition. Now, this is a little bit different for me because I signed up last week, so I only have like 4 weeks to prepare. That's probably not gonna go spectacularly. But I do have some thank yous. So, all right, so first one is from Trevor, who was cool enough to get me some weight loading pins from Rogue. Really, really cool, you man. This is gonna come in super handy, especially when we expand, and I have a lot more racks to add these things to. Super, super cool, you man. I thank you so much. Secondly, I need to thank Randy. Randy actually gave us some inversion boots. So he actually says in his letter that they were for guys like Zabi and Tom and John, who are some of our adaptive athletes who are missing some of their limbs, and maybe strap those on and use them for strongman implements. And that is an awesome idea, man. I am so thankful that you do that. However, selfishly, I have to admit that I've been using them and a bunch of people from my gym have been using them, and it is awesome. If you guys do not know what inversion boots are, you simply strap them to your ankle and then you hang upside down from a pull-up bar and it decompresses your spine. It definitely helps a lot, especially after heavy squat days or heavy deadlift days. So Randy, thank you so much. Trevor, thank you so much. And thanks to each and every single one of you for watching these. Thanks to all of you who've been subscribing. Super, super cool. I am so grateful, so overwhelmed, so humbled. Guys, I will catch up with you early next week, but until I do go out, do something amazing with your lives, keep working hard, be nice to each other, and I'll see you then.